Okay, what I want to do next is bore you to death, as I haven't done a good job of it now. Many of you had the opportunity to see the slide presentation on May 31st. I showed it at the high school to show you what I was going to be presenting to the Pacific Northwest. Some of you have seen it, some of you haven't. Some of you have seen the slides that I brought back from the PNW, and some of you haven't. So what we're going to do this evening is we're going to go over those slides. And I have both presentations here, and I'm going to cover both of them, obviously. That Bigfoot existed in Ohio. The reason I put this together was to show you that the terrain is suitable for something like that to exist. Okay? This is a state map of Ohio, part section of it. The counties that are outlined in the yellow are the ones where I do the majority of my research. Tuscarawas, Coshocton, and Guernsey counties. And a little bit of history about Tuscarawas County. It has 84,000 population. Coshocton has around 54,000 population. The Woodbury Wildlife Area mainly is in Coshocton County, and this area up in here. Of course, you have Salt Fork State Park down here in Guernsey County. There's just a tremendous amount of area that is available for these things to roam. Guernsey, Tuscarawas, Muskingum, and Coshocton counties are 4 of the 5 counties out of the 88 in Ohio that have the highest number of deer take every year for deer season. New Cumberstown, Ohio, which is where we're at now. This is a little bit of New Cumberstown, an aerial view. Some of the landmarks here. This is the New Cumberstown Middle School, Baker's AG Foods. River Street, which you came down on to go to this meeting tonight, is located right here. Our Union Hall is down about right here. And this is, of course, the downtown area. This is an old building that's dated back into the 1870s. A couple of people that are from New Cumberstown that some people don't know about are Woody Hayes, the temperamental Ohio State football coach, and Cy Young, the baseball pitcher, is from New Cumberstown. Poor guy. This is myself, along with one of Buddy Davis's models. That's a 9-foot tall model. I'm 5'9" for a comparison. Some people say I'm 5'8". I'd rather go 5'9". But that's just to give you a comparison on, a size as compared to what would be 9 foot tall roaming the woods. The shoulders on this thing are 3.5 foot wide, and that's a pretty good sized individual. Buddy Davis, who makes these, lives near Bladensburg, Ohio, which is in Knox County. That's about 45 miles west of here. Okay, this is a very interesting, not only watercolor painting, but a very interesting story that goes with this. On July 2nd of 1984, a lady by the name of Lorena took her 3 young kids to the Sharon, Ohio Grange Hall, located in Noble County, Ohio, which is 40 miles south of New Cumberstown. The kids wanted to go down to the merry-go-rounds, the swings, spend the late afternoon, early evening, just have something to do. And they got down there and they had been entertaining themselves for a good while when all of a sudden Lorena heard some noise in the woods. And it was very heavy walking noise. Well, near the Sharon, Ohio Grange Hall is a man's field, cattle field, that of course has cattle in. So her first thought was, well, one of the neighbor's cattle has gotten loose and is roaming around, so I'm not worried about it, he'll find it. 10-15 minutes later, she hears the walking right near the wood line. So the first thing she does is turns her head over toward the wood line where the walking is coming from, looks at the wood line, and lo and behold, sees this individual. The smile on the face is not exaggerated. She said that is exactly the way it appeared when she looked up at it. It was looking down at her 3 kids who were playing on the playground equipment. Her one daughter walked over to her, and she said that her daughter looked at her, tugged her on the shirt, looked up at her mom, and said, "Mom, is that Bigfoot?" And she said, "Yes, I think it is. Let's walk very slowly backwards, head up toward the house, which was about 75 yards away, and leave it alone so it doesn't come after us." And as she took her 3 kids away from the merry-go-round, the playground, etc., whatever, it just stayed there and never moved except its head, and readjusted its body as it needed to watch her and her kids as they walked away. Interesting side note to this is 2 weeks before this thing was seen, spotted, large 16 to 18 inch human-like footprints were found in their garden, barefooted. And she thought it was one of the neighbors messing with the garden. And of course, now she doesn't think it was one of her neighbors. She knows what it was. Okay, this is an aerial photo of the New Comerstown power plant, which is on the right-hand side of the picture. This is the Tuscarawas River. You can see the power lines that run through the area. This particular activity right here was not like this back in 1985, 1984, when reports started coming out of here. Some of the first sightings that I received, in fact, one of the first sightings that I personally investigated was April 28th of 1984. It took place approximately right in this area here. And incidentally, these houses, this house, this building here, this garage, these were not here back in the mid-80s when all this activity took place.
I think Bigfoot's up there on the screen right now.
Yeah, it's an animated slide, so, you know. But anyway, it was 3 New Comerstown youths who had gone down, you know, it was a late spring day, or late April, early spring day, just roaming around, having a good time. They smelled a smell when they got to an area right in here. It smelled like a dead animal. So being curious, as teenagers are, they decided to continue on to see what the dead animal smell was. They continued on, and as they did, in the particular area right in here where these tanks are, right by that tree, they saw a creature standing there, picking leaves off the tree and eating them. And they described the creature as a brownish colored creature, 7 to 8 foot tall. And all 3 of these guys saw that, they looked at each other, they stopped, turned around, and ran all the way back to New Comerstown. One of the kids convinced his skeptical father to go out to the area and check out the vicinity where he said he had seen it. So he did. And the next day, his father went out there and found 16-inch footprints. So his father was no longer skeptical. He believed his son's description of what he had seen. And he said, I wouldn't come back here anymore if I were you. And I periodically see the guy on the street, and he has never been back to that spot.
Don, was the trees unusual or just a regular tree?
No, it was just a regular tree. It had a trunk, bark, you know, leaves.
Sometimes they shoot different kind of leaves for different reasons. That's why I asked.
I know as much about trees as I do gold.
Yeah, I'm mighty proud of you.
So am I. This is an aerial view. Mark Francis, where you at? I don't know. Yeah, I think you've seen this. This is an aerial view. This is approximately half to 3/4 of a mile south of the Guernsey-Tuscarawas County line. Technically, that road at the bottom of the picture is called Guernsey County Road 33. This bare area here, there used to be a house here. This area here used to have a 2-story barn. Then in 1985, when myself and Mark Francis started going out there and doing research, it had a 1-story barn. The top part of it had weathered away. I mean, you know, it was just gone.
Convertible?
It was then, yeah. And this terrain here it's not flat like it looks, believe me. You'll see that here shortly. That is a very steep hill that leads up to this bunch of pines. But back in 1985, many of you have heard me report the stories of the old Floyd and Dave area. The old Floyd and Dave area was right here on this property. And during the summer of '85, they claim, and I would discount at least 75%, they claim to have had about 25 sightings of a Sasquatch-type creature. They also claim to have found many footprints, hear many different sounds come out of the woods all the way around the property there. And on more than one occasion, and I won't mention this particular individual's name, but Floyd and another person saw at least one set of red glowing eyes more than one time. And I didn't see the red glowing eyes myself out there, but I believe them. I definitely believe them. This is also the area where I had my first sighting of a very light-colored or a white-colored individual on September 15th of 1985 at 10:04 p.m. What I saw made its way down in this, there used to be an old chicken pen, probably right in this area right here. What I saw made its way down through this open field right there, stopped at the chicken pen for a second, and then headed back up in that direction. It has been theorized. There was a really full moon outside, and I don't know that it saw me or not, but it has been theorized that it saw the reflection off the top of my head, got scared, and ran away.
I agree. But
I don't buy that, but that's what I've been told. You don't have to say anything about that, Mark. But I will tell you, Mark Francis, who was here this evening, was one of the 4 people that were out there that night that I had my sighting. And the other 2, I haven't seen them for a long time, Floyd Wiley and David Tayo. And if anybody has any doubt as to what I'm telling you in reference to my physical reaction, which was I was shaking like a leaf, white as a ghost, or what I had seen or anything like that, talk to Mark, because he knows what I looked like when we went inside that house. And I know what I saw. And he knows what he heard coming down the hill, right behind that old barn. And let me tell you, folks, I wish every year was as enjoyable as the summer of '85 out there at Torrent Days, because that place, all Hades broke loose. I mean, it was a Bigfooter's dream come true. Other than getting photographs of the creature, that, we recorded sounds, I saw the thing. It was a lot of fun. I wish
Have you investigated it lately?
I haven't talked to the property owners. I go out there periodically to look around, just to drive by the area, see what it looks like. But I haven't, no. I figure this now, and this isn't an egotistical comment. I've been known in this area for 13 years as a Bigfoot investigator. I know who the people are that live there. If anything's going to happen out of the ordinary, I'm sure they'll contact me. So, as far as within a 25-mile radius in your Cumberstown, I'm really not concerned about people contacting me. If they know who I am, if they contact the Tuscarawas Coshocton or Cruiser County Sheriff's Department, they know who I am too. One or more of those law enforcement agencies have cooperated with me before, but one or more of them has tried to intentionally deceive me before. This is a ground shot of that area out there. This house trailer, of course, wasn't here. The only thing that was here before is the terrain. The trees, the open front yard, the hill. You see how the hill is now? From the air, it looks flat. From the ground, I guess you could say from the air, you can see the topography a little bit.
When this happened, was it like full foliage?
Full foliage, yeah. Mid-September of '85.
So
yeah.
you still had a lot of leaves on the trees?
Right.
It's a lot thicker than what it looks from this view.
Oh, definitely, yeah. This area right here, of course, is the wood line. And the barn would have set over here. The house would have been probably right just there, or maybe just a little behind where this house trailer is now. It was a wild chain of events that took place out there. I just took this shot to show you what the mining does in Ohio. Mining is necessary to have the coal for the power plants, etc. But before everything grows back, there's that creature moving around again. He gets around a lot. Before everything grows back, they really tear it up quite a bit. This is probably growth that's a couple of years old. You can see scattered trees. The mining companies are required to replant the trees in Ohio. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But this just goes to show you, you can read the terrain here a little bit. A hill that flows down. Ample amount of water right here at the base of it that's available. A path for anybody or anything to walk. You can see cloud cover. There's a wood line up in this area. So this is another area. I don't recall. I think this is near Otsego. I'm not quite sure. It is in old mining territory. It's just inside of Muskingum County. That is State Route 93, located right there. And this used to be mining territory here, but there's a dump company, a refuge hauling company that has their equipment parked there now, so they own this now. Again, it just goes to show you some of the terrain that's available. This area here is in the Wills Creek area. southern Coshocton, northern Muskingum County. You can see again the ample amount of water available, the amount of cover available. This little line here indicates probably a gas line or a power line going through there. We do now have multiple sightings. There are 3 creatures in the picture, so keep your eye on them. You can also see a gas well, gas storage tanks there. This is old growth, this is new growth. Fortunately, along the Willis Creek water basin, they have replanted a lot of what they tore out of there, and they did the mining back in the late 70s, early 80s, and it is growing back very nicely now. This is also the Willis Creek area, Mark, and a lot of people in here should recognize this. This is on County Road 410, within a half a mile to the east of where a man by the name of Ed Daniels resides. But that's Muskingum County right there, and we are standing in Coshocton County when the shot was taken. That, by the way, looks a whole lot wilder now than what it did when the shot was taken. When I was in the process of getting this slide presentation together, I was notified of a sighting that had taken place in eastern Tuscarawas County in 1996, late November of 1996. This is the eyewitness there, and to be quite honest about it, I don't even remember what his name is. But what he's doing is he's looking down this hill, which drops off quite a bit. And what he saw that day, the week of Thanksgiving in November of 96, he and his wife were on this road coming down this direction, but when they just hit the ridge there and started coming down, they could see that this thing was crossing the road from here across to there. And it cleared this road, which is 21, 22 feet in width, in 3 steps. They described it as your typical 7 to 8 foot tall creature, black in color, you know, upright on 2 legs, arms swinging, etc. This is a typical sighting. But the reason these shots are in here is because I learned of this sighting as this slide presentation was being put together for the Pacific Northwest. This is Salt Fork State Park, and this is the lodge. And of course you have the lake here, and the tennis courts, and the parking lots, and all that other jazz. This is the golf course where Bigfoot goes to golf. In fact, I just saw one there, but he ran away. Salt Fork State Park has a tremendous amount of history behind it as far as sightings are concerned. I can think of right offhand a dozen sightings, and probably a lot more than that have taken place within the confines of the Salt Fork State Park area. Believe me when I tell you, the forest rangers over there, they know what's going on. I received a report of a sighting from a former ranger from Salt Fork State Park about a year and a half ago. He called me up on the phone. He had read an article in the Daily Jeffersonian Cambridge, Ohio newspaper. And he called me up and he said, I want to tell you a little story. And I said, okay. And he said, when I was a ranger at Salt Fork, right after the lodge opened, and this is the lodge, this opened in 1973, I believe it was Memorial Day weekend of 73. He said, we were on patrol, and the rangers were on patrol. And he said, I was in one of the ranger stations just off of US Route 22. You want to go check it out? Take the US Route 22 exit on I-77, take the main exit that takes you into Salt Fork State Park property. The first ranger station on the right-hand side, that's where he was on patrol. He said in a 1-week period, we had 4 sightings. And he said one of those sightings was mine. He said what happened was, this one night when there were 2 sightings, the second of which was mine, he said we had received a report from a girl who was driving on one of the roads, and of course she wasn't driving the trees, but she was on the road, and she reported seeing this thing cross the road in front of her. Typical nighttime sighting, it crosses the road, it's reflected in the headlights, it goes on. So the ranger went and talked to her. He called up this guy, and the ranger who was in the park station. He said, yeah, I talked to her, yeah, I think she's been drinking a little bit. So maybe she did, maybe she didn't see it. But don't forget, there were 2 other sightings earlier that week that they had received from the general public over there. So he says, okay, blah, 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 you know, that's the end of the story. And then the guy at the ranger station says, okay, thanks, you're clear, or whatever. And then the guy in the truck calls him back up and he says, oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, she said it's heading in your direction. So, you know, he thinks, fine, it's heading in my direction. There's a lot of territory between here and there. Well, lo and behold, a few minutes later, he was talking on the radio, and he had the sensation that something or someone was watching him. He looks up from looking down at the desk or at the radio or whatever. He looks up, he sees an ape-like face looking in the window at him. In fact, he said that the creature had his face pushed up against the window. He described it very well. He said that the face was a black, leathery texture. He said the eyeballs that he looked at were black. They didn't show any cornea. They didn't show any iris. It looked like one giant pupil, which is all black. He said that the ears were small and pushed to the head. We heard that story earlier. He said that the nose was pushed to the head like a gorilla's nose would be. The mouth, the lips were protruding like a gorilla's would be. He saw all that, and then he swung at it. And when he swung at it, his fist went right through the window. And he said, oh, and I don't think he made contact with the creature. Probably saw him coming towards him. It was just his initial reaction to swing because it scared him. He said, if you don't believe me, go to Guernsey Memorial Hospital, talk to Dr. So-and-so, tell him you talked to me, you tell him to dig up in his files from 20 some odd years ago about the sighting that I told him about, because they wondered how my hand got all cut up. And he said, I told them, and they filled out a report. He said, now if you don't believe me, go check it out. I said, okay, I believe you. So that's one of the most interesting sightings that I've heard of from the Salt Fork State Park area. That's one of the reasons that I took the group of 8 people down there last Sunday, because there's some very interesting stuff going on. If Joe Turner was here, he could tell you about at least 2 or 3 sightings that he himself has heard of from down in that area. Again, this is Salt Fork State Park. This is looking towards the direction that would be the north. This is the park looking towards the west as you are walking on the walkway to go into the main entrance at the lodge. Okay, this is the building. Shot this from the walkway at the building that you just saw in the 2 previous aerials. When I was over there, I saw all these cars that had all these bubble lights on top of them. And who was it? It was me, and well, actually just me. I was looking over there by myself to take the shots. And I walked down the steps, and this guy approached me, and he said, "What's all these cop cars doing here?" I said, "I don't know." So he walks along with me for a few feet because there's a guy coming up the steps from where they had, he had just parked his cruiser. He said, "Well, Keating, we knew you was coming, so we wanted to pick you up while you were here." See, this joke went over better at British Columbia because they don't know me. Anyway, hey, you didn't pay to get in here. Quit your whining. This is Salt Fork State Park, and those of you who went hiking with us last Sunday, 6 days ago, Hozak's Cave is that little black dot above this shaky red dot. Right in there. It's Hozak's Cave. And this is the parking lot, of course, and that's what the Hozak's Cave area looks like with no foliage. Now, of course, we know what it looks like with foliage. But there, makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? But there have been a lot of sightings in the Hozak's Cave area. This road, of course, is no longer in use once you go into the water, unless you have a watermobile. There were 2 sightings that Joe Turner relayed to me that stick out, and they were the summer of one year and then the summer of the next year when there were fishermen down there near the cave area, right in this area here. They were fishing near the shore, and 2 years in a row, the fishermen said they had spotted a female creature that had been throwing rocks at them from the shore, kind of like to drive them away from where it was at. And I didn't talk to the witness myself, but Joe said he did believe. This, of course, is Hozak's Cave. That's not really a cave, it's a large overhang. It looks land right here. You can see the water running there. During the winter, that makes for some very nice scenic shots after the temperature that's been cold for a while. Get some tremendous ice formations there. And during the summer, it gives you a little bit of refuge from the heat, which we needed Sunday. This is the parking lot at Hozak's, that is in the Hozak's cave vicinity. You walk over here to the right, continue on that way. You walk the trail that leads you up to the cave. It takes maybe 5 to 10 minutes to get up to it, depending on how fast you're walking. And again, right in this area, there have been a lot of reports of sightings that have allegedly taken place. This is an aerial shot. When I went up to the west, I realized, hey, I just took 20 pictures from the air that have no trees with leaves on them. So this is an aerial shot. I forget what state route this is. It's in Guernsey County near Bird's Run. This is the location of where a July 19th, 1996 sighting took place at 3:30 in the afternoon, right in this area.
662?
I couldn't tell you. It might be.
I think it is.
Is there anybody that was with me out there that remembers what it was?
I think it's what it is.
Is it? Okay.
I think it's I-77.
No, I know it's not that.
Close.
But anyway, she said she saw it crossing the road from this area here, and it might have come from down in here. You can see this little lane that leads up there. It crossed the road, took one step to go up that embankment, and then walked into the underbrush. And I don't want to tell you what color she said it was, not because
It was like an ochre.
Yeah, I just can't remember exactly what it was. 7 to 8 foot tall, of course. She's looking at this thing, as a real good sighting. This is July 19th of 96, 3:30 in the afternoon. And then this is an aerial view of our film site. For those of you who are in here who haven't been out there before. And incidentally, today's August 2nd, 1997. That took place 5 years ago today. And we were out there today. Unfortunately, I'm not back here with some spectacular footage to show you from today. But, it has been theorized before that sometimes the creature revisits an area during the same time period that a previous sighting had taken place. So we're going to keep our eyes open, a little extra keenly, so to speak, out here for a little while.